We're speaking this morning to Sonya Danita Charles. She's a marketing executive and part-time model, but she's very unique. She has vitiligo. Good morning, Sonya.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Light Breakfast.
Thank you for having me.
You look lovely today.
Oh, thank you. So do you.
Thanks.
Hey, me?
Yeah, you too. You're beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Now, Sonya, can you tell us a little bit more about your skin condition? At what age did you realize that you had vitiligo?
Yeah, definitely. So it actually started at the age of 8. And at that point, it actually started as a small dot on my face. So it wasn't very prominent. Only much later, my parents decided to get it checked because we realized that it was spreading to other parts of my body as well. And then the doctor diagnosed it as vitiligo. And then I only started going for treatments at the age of 10 or 11, if I recall correctly. And at that point, it actually had spread to most parts of my body as well. So I've had it for 18 years now.
Okay.
So basically, since I was 8. Yeah.
Is there a cause to this skin condition? Is it genetic?
It's not entirely genetic, but it is an autoimmune thing. So essentially, based on what the doctors have told me, it's my immune system is attacking my skin cells, thinking that it's a virus when it's actually not, which is what causes the depigmentation in my skin cells.
Right.
But you don't feel sick or anything?
Nope. Everything is fine. It just kind of changes color on its own, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will it continue on for the rest of your life, as in the depigmentation?
Yeah, there are medicine out there that work for some people, but because I've tried so many different treatments, I've done light therapy, I've tried traditional medicine, I was vegetarian for 2 years, so I've tried a lot of different things, but these never really worked for me, while it has worked for other people. So I kind of decided to just leave it be, and it has been changing for the past at least 10 years as well. Sometimes there's a certain spot on my hand that may be white today, but 2-3 months down the line it would change to brown. So it's
so it does. Okay.
Yeah, it just constantly evolves. So some part that is already brown might change to white, whereas some that is white might change to brown. So it kind of has a mind of its own.
Oh.
So I like to say that I'm like a chameleon because I'm constantly
You're
changing.
constantly changing, right?
Yeah.
And it's like a surprise to you every single
exactly.
day, right? Yeah.
And it's really interesting because in high school, I never looked the same every year. So every year, my face looked different, my body looked different. It was constantly changing. So it was always like I was wearing a new mask every year, essentially.
It's fun when you tell friends, guess which one is me?
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm sure growing up with this skin condition, you stand out a little bit more at school, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, have you ever been like really angry or upset or asked why me?
I have actually. Majority of my youth, that's how I felt about myself, because I was the only person in my school that looked that way, and I didn't know anyone else who had vitiligo as well. There's very little representation of people who have vitiligo or even other type of skin disorders. So it was a very challenging point in my life. I did feel very discouraged. I felt, I constantly questioned myself, why me out of all the people, and because I'm a girl. So can you imagine going through high school, your body is already going through so many changes. And then on top of that, you have to deal with all the changes that is happening to your skin as well. And you knew that it was something that you could not control. So that made it even more challenging. And then, the way society looks at you, the things they say about you, people bullying you. So it was definitely I'd say a very challenging period in my life during high school. But after I left high school, I moved to the United States. I started a new life there. And I always tell people that the biggest source of my confidence was definitely leaving the country and going somewhere else where nobody knew me, nobody judged me. And, it's interesting because I always tell people when I was in the States, not a single person has ever approached me and asked me what was wrong with my skin. Whereas in Malaysia, it's like everywhere I go, people stare at me, or people would actually come up to me and ask me, oh, what happened to your skin? Or they would make comments like, oh, were you burnt, or did your parents spill hot oil on you? So I get a lot of really interesting comments from a lot of different people. But essentially, you see how different the mentality is and the culture is. So that sort of motivated me to really develop my self-confidence as well, because I felt like I could genuinely be myself and not be afraid of being judged. Yeah.
What were some of the common misconceptions people had?
There are a
about
lot
your
of
skin condition?
misconceptions.
Yeah.
Number one would be that it's contagious. So, parents, when their kids come near me, they would pull their kids away because
yeah.
they're
Oh.
like, oh, don't touch her because you'll get what she has. Another misconception is that it hurts because they think that, essentially, they think that it's
raw,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
they think it's a raw wound. So they think it hurts. And then third would be that we cannot do anything that a normal person would be able to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
But do you have to take extra precaution on your skin? Do you have to put extra sunblock when you go out?
Yeah, I'm supposed to. I mean, technically, with my skin condition, I'm supposed to
I
put
love
lots
it.
of.
Supposed to, right?
I know. I've gotten so used to it, and because I'm always out in the sun, I don't really like the feeling of sunblock on my skin because it's really greasy and all
Yeah.
that. But I'm supposed to wear lots of sunblock because I do get sunburned pretty easily, but because I've gotten so used to it, it no longer bothers me. So if I do get sunburned, I'll just slap on some aloe vera and then 2 days later, you're fine, Although all the doctors who see me, they're always like, no, Sonia, you can't be doing that. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but hey, beach holidays.
Yeah. Right. You tell the doctor you live with
Yeah, you
sunscreen
live
on
with
your body every
sunblock
day,
all
right?
over you.
But at what point in your life, Sonia, did you sort of start accepting this uniqueness on your skin?
I think the right point of time would be definitely when I moved abroad. Yeah, that's when I really started to rediscover myself and really emphasize on learning more about myself and self-love. And I guess it helped that I was also surrounded by a lot of people who gave me a lot of support and love and kindness. So that really taught me and motivated me to invest in myself and, come up with the mentality that, it doesn't matter what you look like on the inside. It's the type of individual that you are on the inside that matters most.
Okay. But what were some of the challenges, though? Facing this very visual, people
Yeah.
can see it.
Yeah.
It's very visual skin condition and it's on most parts of your body. I'm sure
Yeah.
it's been challenging.
It has been, the most challenging part is getting over, I guess, that mental stress and that emotional stress. So like I mentioned earlier, everywhere I go, people do look at me, and that is kind of a setback sometimes because I feel like it's very unnecessary, but I'm fortunate enough that I have worked on myself for so long, and I am still working on myself to really build my self-confidence. But when I think about it, if I imagine that it was any other girl or any other guy who was facing the same difficulty and they may not have the same self-confidence, that could send them into a downward spiral because not everybody receives criticism and judgment and takes it in a positive light of view. So working on that obviously took a lot of years. Until today, people come up to me and ask me, how are you so confident? And I'm like, girl, I did not build this overnight. It has taken lots and lots of years, and it is still taking a lot of time and effort as well.
Yeah.
But one thing that I continuously do is to really keep growing as an individual and to keep pushing myself to step out of my comfort zone and also do my best, not only for me, but for other people like me, to create more representation for other people like me or other kids who have other skin disorders or other special abilities, and to create more awareness on all these different situations.
But regardless of how strong you are, you build up this force field around you.
Yeah.
But the criticism at some point, even though you've gone through for many years and you've
Yeah.
gotten used to it, it still gets to you at some
Of
point.
course,
doesn't it?
yeah. And one thing that I always make clear is about how vulnerable I am. So especially on my social media, I share a lot of my thoughts. It's basically my visual diary. So I share even if I'm going through a certain hardship or, I'm going through depression or anxiety or whatever it is, I actually talk about it because like I said, as confident as I may seem, I still have a lot of things that bother me as well, But it's just a matter of how long I'm going to allow it to affect me. So I give myself a timeline. Let's say if I'm going through a certain something, I tell myself, okay, you have 1 week to figure out why you feel that this way, how you can get over it, and then really work towards getting over it as well, you know? Because if I did what I used to do as a teen and allow it to affect me, I would be very mentally, emotionally, and physically tired in a lot of different ways. But because I've grown older and I've learned more about myself and basically developed more self-love towards myself, I've learned to channel all of that into a positive energy and, you know, put that energy back into myself as well.
No, I've got no time for this. I've got things to do.
I know, I've got like so many other things to worry about.
Yes, because actually in 2018, you were the first Malaysian model with vitiligo to walk the catwalk of KL Fashion Week. I mean, how did that feel?
Honestly,
it was your first time on the catwalk.
Yeah,
too,
it was
wasn't
my first time doing, so honestly, it felt very liberating. At first I felt really nervous, especially backstage, because I was surrounded by all these babes, okay? So, you know, they're all tall and beautiful and whatnot.
So are you, tall and beautiful.
Thank you. But, you know, obviously at that point, there still is some form of insecurity, which I did feel. But the moment I stepped out on stage and I started walking the runway, everything changed, you know, all the support that I received from all the people who were clapping and cheering me on. It was really, until today, I still remember that moment very vividly. And it's something that I would have never imagined to happen in my wildest dreams. But, you know, it came true. And I was just so overwhelmed with all the love and kindness and support that people were showing me.
Brilliant.
Oh, nice. But why do you think it's important for you to go out there? Like, why did you take up this job?
Honestly, I did it because I see very little representation. Growing up, I never saw anyone else who looked like me. So I always felt like I was an outcast, you know. No one looked like me. No one would, you know, associate with me because they think that there's something wrong with me. So I wanted to change all of that because I've had so many people reach out to me, parents with kids who also have vitiligo, and they ask me, you know, how do you go through it? How do I navigate through this? How do I raise a child who is different? And it's so important for me to do this because I need to do this not only for this generation, but for future generations as well. Because someday when I have a daughter and if she's different, I want her to be able to feel comfortable in her own skin and be able to look up to different role models, you know, whether it's someone with vitiligo or psoriasis or, you know, essentially anything, you know, they basically have a platform and they have other role models who don't fit into your, I guess, carbon copy of what people deem as normal.
Yeah. And so exactly, that's the word that you want it to be.
Yeah.
If you see more people with skin conditions like yours, it's just normal.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So
and that's something that we need to normalize because growing up, there was never representation of that, you know. So as a kid, what are you going to do, you know? Aside from having parents and like, you know, relatives and close friends, there was really no one else there to support you and tell you, hey, it's completely normal. There are so many other people like you. But I'm hoping that with future generations, and especially now with everything that I do and all the hype that I create around it and all the conversation that I create around it, it will also help a lot of other people out there who may be struggling in silence or, you know, just people who have kids that are different.
Speaking about your parents, I think they did a great job with you. How did they help, encourage, and support you through this journey?
Well, they've always been very supportive. Obviously, when I was younger, they felt like they needed to help me get better, which is why they took me for a lot of treatments. And I don't blame them because as parents, obviously, you don't want your kid to go through so much hardship. But eventually it came to a point where they realized, I mean, I've always been quite the person with a mind of my own. So eventually it came to a point where I told them, you know, I don't want to do all these treatments anymore because I'm very comfortable being this way. So I need you to be comfortable with it without feeling bad about it.
Did they feel bad about it?
I think they did because they they tried their best to put me through so many different treatments, and these are not cheap treatments. There was one treatment where I had to go to Teluk Intan every 3 weeks, and my dad would drive me at 4 o'clock in the morning just to get to Teluk Intan, take me to the doctors, and then come back, and then he would go to work. So they tried their best to really help me, because they knew how people looked at me and also how I felt about myself back then. But when I was old enough to kind of get over that, and I told them I don't want to be taking all this anymore, I'm completely fine with it. So they're like, okay, it's up to you, you do what you feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
So even when I told them I wanted to study abroad and kind of do my own thing, they were all very supportive of it. So in that sense, I'm very, very fortunate, because I have a very good support system.
Yeah. I hope they feel like it was their fault or something.
I mean, as parents, I think
as parents,
anything,
they definitely
anything
do.
that happens to your child feels like it's your fault.
Right.
That's why they felt bad.
It's something that they don't have control over, they still want to be able to do everything they can. So I know that they definitely felt like that at some point of time. But once I finally told them, don't feel this way, I'm fine with being this way. So they kind of came to terms with it. So now they just let me do whatever I want. I'm like out there, talking about it and really creating a lot of awareness about it as well. And they've been very supportive too.
I'm done with the meds.
Oh yeah, no joke. There were a lot of meds.
But I mean, you are in the fashion industry, and we all know that the fashion industry sort of perpetuates this perfection. You know, like how can the fashion industry change to sort of accept a more diverse shape and sizes, color and creed and uniqueness,
I think in Malaysia, definitely they need to be more open-minded and inclusive, because while there are a lot of brands who are open to the idea of it, there are still a lot of brands who are more traditional. So essentially their version of a model is what you see on billboards. There's very little representation of plus-size models or models with different skin tones and different complexions. So Malaysia still has a long way to go, but I'm glad that there are people out there who are very receptive to the idea of it and have been pushing a very positive message in the fashion industry, especially with showing representation of different kinds of people out there.
But how can we, as regular Malaysians, sort of encourage more people to accept a more diverse beauty standard, I guess? I
think the first step would be, especially for those who are new parents, to educate their kids and to teach their kids that being human doesn't mean you're only white or brown. There's so many different colors out there. There's so many different shapes and sizes. And another step as adults is for you to basically be more open to the idea of it. So a lot of criticism that I receive is actually from adults, not so much from people my age, but people from the older generations, because they have a more traditional sort of mindset. They only know 1 + 1 = 2. There's no other possible solution to that, So basically, it's being open to growing as an individual and kind of changing your mindset and adapting to the generation that we live in, with media and technology and everything around us. There's so much information out there, It's a matter of whether you choose to be receptive to it or not. So as Malaysians in general, if you see someone who looks different, I think Malaysians have a bad habit of staring at people. Yeah. That's something I realized after coming back from the States. I realized, oh my goodness, they do stare a lot here, So one step would be to stop staring at people who look different, because that makes them feel very uncomfortable, It's like you pointing out that we are very evidently different. I mean, we already know that, but staring just emphasizes on that, And essentially being more accepting of these different kinds of people, because at the end of the day, we all bleed the same way, we're all humans. We just look different. We have different personalities, but we're all cut from the same cloth, as you would say.
Like, do you think Malaysians are too obsessed with color? They're like, sometimes they'll go, hey, what are you? Let's say you're mixed or whatever. Hey, what are you?
They definitely
I think because JD gets that a lot.
Because even for me, I mean, I don't have a skin condition or anything, but they'll look at me and they'll say, hey, what are you? Because I'm Chindian, I'm not Indian, I'm not Chinese. Then they'll also ask, Eurasian? Are they too obsessed with stuff like this?
Yeah,
you
they
think?
definitely are. Yeah, it's funny because I've actually had people come up to me and tell me, "Oh, why don't you just decide what color you want to be?" You know?
No.
Yeah, because there are bleaching pills. I mean, bleaching medicine out there, which essentially bleaches your skin and makes you one color.
Right.
So I've had people come up to me and be like, "Oh, why don't you just choose one color? Why don't you make it all white?" And when I tell them, "No, I don't want it that way," they question me and they're like, "What's wrong with you?"
There are meds like that.
Yeah. You'd be surprised.
Really?
Actually, a good example would be like Michael Jackson. You know how he turned from brown to white?
Yeah.
It's because of skin whitenings and basically bleaching stuff
Right,
that
right.
changes your whole cell. Basically bleaches your whole cell.
Right.
Yeah. So colorism is definitely something that's very prominent here.
Right.
And I also get it a lot where people look at me and they think, "Oh, you don't look Malaysian." Just because I have certain features. So when I tell them they're Indian, I'm just Indian, they'll question me and be like, "Oh, you're just Indian? Really? Like your mom's not Chinese, you're not Eurasian."
Right.
And I'll be like, "Oh, I'm pretty
Malaysians
sure."
are so obsessed with
I
that.
know. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I would know, unless I'm adopted. But I'm pretty sure I'm just one, just
Yeah.
Indian alone. But yeah, for some reason they have the whole issue with, if you're Chinese, you're only this color. If you're Indian, you're only this color. If
Yeah.
you're Malay, you're only this color. So that's a mentality that definitely needs to change as well.
Now, Sonya, this is a very difficult question. If there was a cure for your vitiligo, would you take it?
Honestly, a close friend of mine has asked me this question before, and I gave it a really long and hard thought, and my answer would be no. Yeah, because there was, I did a shoot once upon a time where they actually covered my face back to, they used foundation and made me one color, which
Right.
is my brown color. And at first, it was kind of interesting because that was the first time in 18 years that I had seen my skin as one even color. Because like I said, it has always been changing. I've always had white spots on me. So when they put that on me and I looked at myself in the mirror, I actually felt sad because I saw a reflection of someone that I did not know. This has become a part of my identity. It has become something that I'm so comfortable with that some days I don't even notice it, know.
Right.
So even if there was a cure out there, I know that a part of me would think, maybe I should take it, because over the long run, maybe my mentality will change or my feelings will change, especially as I get older. But I've really thought a lot about it, and I don't think it's something I will take because I feel like it will take away a very big part of me. It'll take away everything that I've stood for. It'll take away all the experiences that I've gone through. And essentially, it just takes away who Sonya really is. This is me through the core. So if I change that, that's me basically becoming someone that I know I'm not. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
How's dating been?
Honestly,
Is that a big question that comes up?
yeah, it is. Really funny story. I actually had someone come up to me once, and it's this old, really old uncle, and he, based on his mentality, I can tell that he's very traditional with the way he thinks. But he actually came up to me and he told me, "Oh, I feel really sorry for you." And I said, "Oh, why, uncle?" And he goes, "Because you won't be able to get married."
Oh, no.
And then I said, "Why won't I be able to get married?" And
Yeah.
he goes, "Oh, because of your skin condition, It's a shame because you're such a nice girl, but, no one's going to be able to marry you because you look like that."
What?
I know. I trust me, I get a lot of interesting
Wow.
questions and comments
Wow.
from people around. Yeah, so he just went, it's just a shame because no one will marry you, and you don't necessarily fit into what a bride should look like and all that. And I just told him, I said, "Uncle, if how a person looks is what's important in a marriage, then I definitely don't want to be married, because that person needs to love me for who I am, not for how I look."
Definitely.
So a lot of people think that I do struggle with dating or meeting men in general, but I've been very fortunate in a lot of ways. There are a lot of cuties out there who kind of flirt with me or things like that. I have dated in the past as well, but Initially, I'd say high school. Obviously, you know how in high school, all the girls have like boyfriends and whatnot. I definitely didn't have that because I was also very insecure. And, you know, high school boys, they're so immature. So
Men in general.
Exactly.
You know?
Thanks for saying that,
I'm
JD.
sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
thanks
still-
for acknowledging that.
Just in general, yeah.
But as I started growing older, obviously, a lot of different people come into your life, teach you a lot of different lessons. So, I mean, dating isn't hard. It's just a matter of whether you want to put yourself out there or not.
And meeting the right person
Yeah,
who see you for
yeah.
who you are.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
didn't really answer the question. There's a guy in this story somewhere, but she's just going around the bush and everything. You want to answer this?
Well, we all know that beauty is only skin deep, right?
Yeah.
But what do you think is beautiful about you?
I think the thing that's most beautiful about me is definitely my resilience and my confidence. And I'm very proud of this because this is things that I worked really, really hard on. You know, it's not something that just popped up overnight. I actually put a lot of time, effort, emotions, mental stress to be able to be the person that I am today and to walk out confidently and just do what I want, go where I want, you know, talk to whoever I want. So that would be my strongest traits. Yeah.
Wow.
Now, what is your advice then to people who may be insecure about the way they look, even though they don't have skin condition or they're just insecure about the way they look?
My advice would be really to just not overthink it. I know it's easier said than done, but it requires for you to basically show yourself a lot of love. You know, a lot of us lack self-love, which is why we feel insecure or, you know, we go through different things in life. But when we realize that our life, we only get one chance at this, you know. Someday we're going to be gone and we're not going to be able to redo this whole journey again. So why waste it worrying about other people's opinions or allowing other people to make you small, you know, because I feel that sets us back from achieving our goals, that sets us back from really being who we want to be. So my advice would be to just be yourself, because even if you're the best person on earth, people will still judge you. That's human nature. Everybody loves to judge, everybody loves to nitpick. So why not just be you and let people judge, you know? If they judge you, if you know yourself through your core and you know who you are as a person, nothing that anyone says or does will affect you.
How old are you again?
I'm 27.
Jeez, you're like,
Powerful words from a beautiful woman.
and you're wise beyond your
I
age.
know.
Wow.
Thank you. Sometimes I feel it's a lot of like my grandparents or really different old souls in me. But these are all different life lessons that I've learned through meeting a lot of different people. So when people ask me, you know, who inspires you, it's not just one particular person who inspires me. It's so many different people because so many different people have taught me so many different lessons. Some have stayed, some have gone, but in each way, it has not only taught me about life, but it has taught me a lot about myself as well. So I take it all as lessons. You know, every conversation that I have with people, every piece of advice that I receive, it's a matter of receiving it, understanding it, and then applying it into my own life as well.